I want to call the meeting to order. It's 10 minutes to 3. My name is Christian Mbatusa. I work with Emily, and I will be moderating part of the session for this afternoon meeting. I take the pleasure to welcome all of you who have joined us, and we are looking forward to your engagement towards whatever we are going to be reflecting on. I also want to welcome the people who are joining us virtually, and we are going to be receiving a presentation from one of the participants online, who is Dr. Christine Nagawa. So we already know. I guess you have the agenda before you. We already registered. I hope we all registered. Okay, so for the members here that have not registered, please, Secretariat, I have heard that some people have not registered. Please ensure that we all register. We shall proceed with our opening prayer. Let me invite a volunteer. A volunteer to lead us in a word of prayer. Please, thank you.
Yes. It's a little bit of number of things. God, our living Master, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you, Father, to be able to provide in this place. We brainstorm and be able to ideas us together. Father, we can't make anything without your blessings. We pray that you bless our discussion. Bless all those that are already in here. Be able to magnify, testify, and inspire. We all this place for our Savior. Amen.
Thank you so much for volunteering. We are here for a meeting for COP29. It's a joint civil society consulted to consult on the roadmap, but we are also doubling this with a review or to get input in the draft course content for the NBS Academy. As Emily, we've been in the process of developing a course content for NBS. How many of us here know NBS? None. No one knows NBS. Okay, so we've developed a course content for nature-based solutions, not NBS television or NBS. You may think about it is nature-based solution. We are going to have one of the consultants present this to us so that we provide our input. This course outline aims to train policy makers, practitioners, and relevant stakeholders engaged in nature-based solutions, so as to advance the scaling of these solutions. So with that, let's also proceed with self-introductions. Now that we know why we are here, can we start from this side?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Joshua from Swagen.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Good afternoon. I'm Emmanuel Kenya from the Climate Change Department in Institute of Water. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Simaba Mohammed from Minnesota.
Good afternoon, everyone. What is the girl? Is my name? I will say that.
Hello, I'm all dressed actually.
Philip, you're next. Yeah.
Madam Chair.
That's why.
Madam Chair.
That's why.
afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Diachila. I work with governmentship for the Department President. Glad to be here.
People, then questions.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Delia Namdu. I work with Emily. My name is Alex. From Emily.
Yes, thank you so much. We have new members that have joined us. There are seats here. There is a seat here, there is more here. Yes. Yeah, as we settle in, you will introduce yourselves once you've settled. I want us to proceed to our next agenda item. In the interest of time, let me invite Ms. Jalia Namubiru to give us the opening remarks. Thank you, Christine. Am I audible? Yeah. What? Wait. Carol, you settle? Yes, Anthony, making remarks. Thank you so much, Christine, for steering this up. I would like to welcome you so much to this meeting. As you all know, COP29 is near. It is happening in November from 11th to 22nd in Baku, Azerbaijan. Yeah, as you all know, as civil society, it is our cardinal role to compile our voices ahead of COP29, building from the decisions and outcomes of COP28. We are supposed to come up with our roadmap, which we have as a draft. We are going to present our roadmap, but also government will also share their roadmap to see how we can synergize and perhaps harmonize where need be. I understand most of us have little support within our organizations, but we thought it worthwhile, instead of having a siloed approach, we would have a harmonized approach where we rally support towards the process. It has a lot of activities which will be shared. As Christine also shared, NBS is one of the core elements for negotiation at COP29, and it builds from the discussions which happened last year. So one of the key issues or challenges that are deterring the adoption of NBS is the knowledge gap. And as Emily, we want to have a harmonized and coordinated capacity development through an NBS academy. Yeah, that is why we came up with our course content. We developed a course outline, but we also went ahead to develop a course content, which is going to be presented by our consultant. In the interest of time, because I see we're already behind schedule, in case we don't have enough time to provide input,
we shall share with you the draft such that you give it the desired input. This whole arrangement is under the auspices of the ENR and CANU. I know all of us here subscribe to one or two of those networks. So instead of having siloed interventions, we are rallying all our support towards those two networks. But it doesn't imply that those who do not subscribe to those two networks are not part of us. So we are here to rally support and maybe make some commitments in case you have any commitments. I understand there are organizations which have accreditation. We also want to speak about accreditation and maybe speak to us, how many slots do you have? How can we harmonize and share them amongst ourselves? I would like to thank you so much once again and wish you deliberate, fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jalia, for the opening remarks that set us in of why we are here, why we have this kind of agenda before us, and what we are expecting from this engagement. I note that we have people that join us while we had already introduced, but we also have online participants. So before I invite the people in the room that joined us later, I'm going to ask the people online to unmute and let us know who they are. Mr. Bachika and Dr. Nagawa.
Thank you so much, Christine. I'm Christine Betty Nagawa, and I'm acting as the consultant for the development of the content for the NBS Academy. Glad to join you.
Thank you, Christine. Then Mr. Bachika. Okay, I am not sure whether he's able to hear us, but let's proceed. Let's know the people that have joined us. Starting from here. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, that's the word. That's the word.
Raymond.
Good Raymond, look, I have put me the Uganda.
You're welcome. Please introduce. Oh, you introduce. Oh, I saw like 3 people. Okay, that's.
Is that the meaning?
Please introduce and we proceed to the next agenda item. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for introducing. Anthony. Okay, you're all welcome for this meeting, and we are looking forward to your deliberation. We all know why we are here. It's about NBS as a core element in the negotiations at COP, the Conference of Parties on Climate Change, but also we are going to inform the roadmap towards the participation in that global event. So at this juncture, let me invite a representative from the Climate Change Department to give us remarks. Mr. Medicine, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is representative from the Climate Change Department. As I said, my name is Semamba Muhammad, and I work with the Climate Change Department in this environment. And I think I'll just make it simple. the Minister of the Environment received an invitation signed by a representative from Emily, inviting us to be part of this joint meeting for civil society in terms of caucusing on the roadmap to COP29. So my commissioner received the invitation, but she chose me to come here because I take this direction. That after that meeting, you will go home. I'm joking. She's really a little bit busy. As most of you might know that there's a lot of things which are going on, but she wanted me to stand in for her, just to bring greetings from the Minister of Water and Environment, but also to appreciate the support that you have brought in the climate change discourse. So the Minister of Water and Environment, as always, we are at the center of coordinating the national actions to see that we have effective representation at COP29. So the programs for COP29 are shaping, but not yet final. Countries are preparing and lobbying on the agenda items that they feel that are left out, including Uganda, but also trying to organize as a country, irrespective of which part of the work you're coming from, whether from state or non-state, we have to organize ourselves and go as a team. So the Minister of the Environment has embarked onto that. And I think in one of the presentations which I was requested to make, I'll be giving you the roadmap for government. Perhaps it will give you an indication to fit in the roadmap for the civil society joint collaboration. So I think with that, I just want to thank Emily for convening us, but also to thank all the civil society organizations represented here for the continuous collaboration with government of Uganda, ensuring that we have a sustained environment in terms of climate change, adaptation and mitigation, but also ensuring that the capacity has been built in, year in, year out. And I think Uganda is one of the countries which has really tried to do better in terms of capacity enhancement in all angles of climate change. So with that, I would like to end my remarks, and I take back the microphone to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Semambo. Another round of applause for him. And thank you for acknowledging the supplementary role that non-state actors play in enhancing the capacity of the different stakeholders on matters related to climate change, which I know makes your work a bit smooth. At this point, let me welcome Dr. Nagawa to make a presentation on the draft course content for nature-based solutions.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. So what I've prepared for you is just some of the highlights of what will appear in the course content that we have prepared for the course, as we've already been told. So we are preparing we are preparing content for the Nature-Based Solutions Academy in order to fit into the objectives of what we can now say is the talk of the town. As we look at climate change, as we look at flooding, what are some of the ways in which we can try to reduce these occurrences by using what is available to us? So for this particular course structure, it is going to be developed in module form. And at least when they asked, has any one of us heard about nature-based solutions, I was happy when a few people put up their hands. At least we might have heard about it, but maybe how we understand it is going to be different. So when we look at these nature-based solutions, we are looking at just options to try and address threats to our environment, which could be in terms of climate change, loss of biodiversity and environmental degradation. So when you look around Kampala on a rainy day, I think we can see all the effects of flooding. Flooding is a threat, first of all. It is as a result of the climate change that we are receiving increased amounts of rain, and these rains, due to the poor infrastructure, are flooding. So how can we try to reduce some of this by using what is available to us? So you could say that is what NBS is trying to look at. So the different actions that address the challenges that we face in our society by protecting, sustainably managing, and restoring ecosystems which benefit both the biodiversity and human well-being are what we are going to refer to as nature-based solutions. Of course, if we sustainably manage and then restore our ecosystems, of course, there are there are benefits which are going to arise from this. In most cases, once we have looked at this, then of course we result in protection, restoration, and then we try to manage our ecosystems which have been modified in different ways. So in this engagement, Emily is looking at NBS as one of the solutions which you can use to address climate change. Depending on let's say the area where you're coming from, you can try to define climate change in different ways. But when you look at some of the common examples of NBS, in most cases, we are looking at management of water resources. It could be area-based conservation, protected area management, ecological restoration, and then ecosystem-based adaptation, just to mention a few. Because actually, when you look around, the NBS that you consider are always going to be tailored to what you're interested in, because there are actually very many. But when you look at the environment and climate, that is what we are interested in for now, per se, and that is why the content is going to be tailored actually towards that. And of course, if you are to implement these NBS solutions, it would mean we need different stakeholders. You as an NGO might not be enough. So we need to engage the practitioners. We need to engage also the policy makers. Once we can reach an agreement with the practitioners and the policy makers, then we are sure that whatever we suggest is always going to be implemented. If we decide to do this on our own, you find that in most cases we are going to fail. If you want to, let's say, address challenges of deforestation without let's say, the Ministry of Water and Environment, it might not be enough. So a collaborative effort is needed in any other way if we want to make this a success. And above all, we want this to be a hands-on. Sometimes we go for training and then we leave this where we found it. So if we can try to build a program where we ensure or we empower NBS champions, then you'll find that here, during the design and implementation of NBS, it is going to become very easy. What are the aims and objectives of the course? Of course, our major aim is to facilitate training for policymakers and practitioners, because once the policymakers have been trained, they're the ones who are going to enforce whatever preparations or whatever suggestions that we have done. And of course, when you look at the objective, each objective should have an outcome, because if you cannot measure what you have set out to do at the start, then you find that here, this is also going to lead to total failure. Of course, we hope by the end of the course, we shall have understood the principles, the standards, and then the applications of the NBS. Of course, we want to also create a linkage between the NBS and the national development programs. Of course, our major interest here is climate change, which we are going to couple with disaster risk management and ecosystem management. And then to also want to also apply these NBS principles to enable responsible production and consumption. And of course, finally, what are the available financing options for NBS? If I can gain something from NBS, then its implementation has to be designed in the best way possible. So when we look at this, of course, we have our target audience. As already mentioned, we have the policy makers and practitioners, those who are directly working in the environment and climate change related sectors. You find that there are also stakeholders who want to have more information on NBS. We also, if you want someone who to act as trainers for NBS, then this course will also be helpful. And then there are also individuals who are interested in NBS. So this course is also organized for them. So what are we going to find within this course? This course has been organized in different modules, which build on the others. And of course, each module has a specific objectives and learning outcomes. And then, of course, since most of the time we shall be doing it will be self-paced, then we want to ensure that at the end of a session or of a module, you can evaluate yourself to try and ascertain the knowledge acquired at the end of the module. So our module for this particular academic are 5. We also, of course, the first module, we shall look at the general introduction. Then the second module, we shall look at the implementation of nature-based solutions in climate change and disaster reduction. Excuse me a second. In 3, we are looking at NBS in sustainable ecosystem services, restoration and biodiversity net gain. And then module 4, we shall consider nature-based solutions for responsible production and consumption. And then how do we invest in nature-based solutions? I will come back to the detail of each of this. For our course structure, as earlier mentioned, we have organized them into modules. Our mode of delivery, it will be a blended mode, the face-to-face, which will be communicated, of course, online classes, which are usually self-paced, and then case studies, because you find that there are already countries which are implementing the NBS solutions to restore their degraded environments, or even contribute to restoring the climate to what is acceptable. So we can use these case studies to compare with Uganda and see how best we can organize our or try to bring back our country to its former glory. Some assignments have also been included. And then, as already mentioned, we have a quiz for practice at the end of each module. When we come back to the detailed course structure, module 1, we are looking at introduction to nature-based solutions. Sometimes we know what NBS is, but there are some things which we take for granted. So when we introduce some of these key concepts and then fundamental principles, then you find that here it provides a basis of how we are going to move on, or when we start the practice, how the best ways in which to provide a linkage between them. In session 2, we shall look at the global standards for nature-based solutions. These have been picked from IUCN, which has been in most cases, in most of the citations that you come across or the literature, most of them are looking at the standards which have been provided by the IUCN. And then for the case, what is the linkage between Sustainable Development Goals and the National Development Goals? If we are saying by 2030, we should have achieved the Sustainable Development Goals. When we compare them to the nature-based solutions, what is the relationship between them that we can look at? That if let's say I'm looking at eradicating poverty and hunger, if I'm to target a particular nature-based solution, how am I going to contribute to this particular SDG? And then also the evaluation framework for NBS. Sometimes you might think that what you have set up is a nature-based solution, but sometimes when you look at the guidelines or the framework, you find that maybe you're way out of line and you have to think again how you're going to think about this. For this particular module, we want to, at the end, you should be able to describe the different concepts of NBS, including applications and practices. Of course, for each, let's say like if we look, each of these has its own benefits and challenges. We know that while NBS contributes to the protection and restoration of the environment, sometimes during its application, it might also have an impact on the environment. So how do we strike a balance between the two? Of course, we should also be able to provide a clear linkage between the SDGs and the National Development Goals and then the NB. Yes, we don't want to have a collision, but at least it should have a clear distinction. And of course, someone should be able to discuss the steps in the evaluation framework if you're to design an NBS and verify it before it can be passed for application or implementation wherever it is going to be applied. I've shared some highlights because if we're to include all the content, the detailed content for this, I think we might have to spend here around 24 hours before we might achieve our goals. When you look at this, these are some of the examples of ways in which, or some of the nature-based solutions which we can advance in order to bring back to restore our environment. This is something that is learned from China, because you find that here, when you look at the population of China, it is so high, but when you look at also the advanced, pardon? Is it okay? Am I okay? Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes.
It's like there is an echo. Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay, so these are some of the nature-based solutions which have benefits to people, nature, and climate. This was from a webinar. So if we look at wetlands, we know the status of the wetlands in Uganda. So how do we restore our wetlands in order to, with using what is available to us? If we look at the status of the flooding, how do we try to control the flooding without getting rid of the parks? Of course, we also have what we call the green roofs and green walls, which are also trying to reduce or try to restore the climates. Of course, restoration of trees. In Kampala, they had started planting trees, but I don't know what happened. They've gone reducing with time. So if we look at some of our floodways, they're already, instead of having clear channels, most of them are always filled with garbage. So how do we try to get back to where we started from? Or if we look at some of the green spaces, City Square would be a good idea. We should be able to coexist with nature without exactly destroying it. What are some of the benefits that would provide when we use these nature-based solutions? Of course, if we restore our forests, we know the importance of the trees. So this would come with improved air quality. They also help with carbon storage. So if you look at each of these, and sometimes we know that our communities also depend on trees or on forests. So our nature-based solutions should be of benefit to both the people and the environment. If it only benefits the environment, you find that very few people are going to buy into the idea. So you always have to strike a balance between the people, the environment, so that people can take on the nature-based solutions. Of course, improved human health would also play a role in how people easily adapt the nature-based solution you're suggesting. The people where you want to apply it should own it. Because if that sense of belonging is not there, however much your idea is good, if they're not seeing where they're benefiting from, you might be kicking a dead horse. So these are some of the global standards, or one of the global standards that we referred to. You're looking at the different societal challenges. Identify the challenge that your society is facing, and then this is going to be your guide at the start of design of your NBS. You're always going to ask yourself, is it economically feasible? Will there be any biodiversity net gain? Inclusive governance. Once these are addressed, then you can look at the adaptation. And then, of course, it has to be sustainable. These days, if you can't sustainably manage the engagement that you're dealing with, then you find that people are only going to look there once and they're never going to look back. If we look at Module 2, where we're looking at implementing nature-based solutions in climate change and disaster reduction. So we always ask ourselves, what is the rationale for nature-based solutions in a changing climate? So once we understood that, if we say that maybe we want to maintain our temperatures to around 1.5 degrees centigrade, you're always going to ask yourself, what is causing this increase in climate or in the temperatures around us? Once you have identified the sources of the increase in temperatures, then you're always going to work backwards and see how best am I going to try and mitigate this. And then if we look at session 2, we want to reduce the disaster risk and then strengthen the ecosystem management. Because you find that sometimes an event is only going to become a disaster if there is loss of life. So how would we try to manage our events? If we look at an example of the landslide in Chintezi, it is not anywhere within the ecosystem management. Of course, if we look at the management of our garbage, you find that if we hadn't lost any life, you find that people would only talk about it in passing. Our landfill exploded. Because it didn't cause any effect, would always just look at it and then wouldn't think about it. And then, of course, we need to increase resilience to disasters through NBS. So understanding all this are going to help us design an NBS solution that is going to be very effective. Of course, when you look at the outcomes, want to define climate change, we should be able to distinguish between the mitigation and adaptation. Then what is causing the climate crisis? Even when we keep on hearing about climate change, why isn't there anything being done, or why isn't there any improvement in what we are doing over the years? And then, of course, we should identify some actions which can be undertaken to promote nature as a solution. We have to start early because we don't want to start at the end. Once we start with the adults and then we leave out the youth, you find that here there is always going to be a gap between the generations. So the earlier we include the youth in whatever we are suggesting, it is going to become very easy. So when you look at this module, I picked out ecosystem services. What are some of the benefits that we are going to obtain from nature that are going to help us during the designing of these NBS? The different services in different categories. There are some which play a supporting role. Then there are those which are provisioning. Then there are those which are referred to as regulating. And then there are those which are culture. So when you look at each of these, like let's say if I planted trees, what role is it going to play? So that you ask yourself, is it going to fall under the supporting role? Is it going to be provisioning? And then so on. So how are these going to contribute to the well-being of the people who are coexisting with nature? So these are what we are looking at as the different constituents of well-being which you can benefit from having implemented our NBS solutions. And then there is when you look at the different ecosystems, like we want to also have an idea. If this is the ecosystem I'm dealing with, what are some of the measures that I'm going to look at, and then how are they going to improve what I'm targeting? So if we look at mountain forests, vegetation on hillsides, what is the gain from that area? Of course, if we can take an example of the forests, of course, we have the root structures which are protecting against the erosion. And then, of course, once they increase the stability of the slope and then preventing the binding the soil, then we are going to prevent landslides. So this would be an ideal in an area like Bududa, because we know that Bududa is prone to landslides. So our immediate intervention would be trying to encourage the communities around there to plant trees around the hills. And the trees that we encourage them to plant, their trees, their root structures should be enough to support the soil, such that in case maybe there is a lot of rain, the runoff is not going to go away with our trees. So they should act as a catchment so that we can benefit from it different ways. We reduce the risk of floods. We then also increase infiltration of rainfall. If it is just forests in a watershed, then of course we know there is going to be water purification, and then incidences of drought are also going to increase. So once we present this to the communities where we want to employ our NBS, you find that here, this is going to speak to the communities because they can already see the benefits that can arise if this is implemented well. When we look at the NBS in sustainable ecosystem services, yes, the ecosystem restoration and the biodiversity net gain, then you'll find that here, like in Kampala, we are suffering from flooding. So we know what is causing the floods. So what are some of the strategies available that we can use available in nature? While an engineer would be interested in constructing, let's say, a wall which is going to act as a water barrier, you find that if it is just a water barrier alone, it is not going to be a nature-based solution. So if we combine this wall with something from nature, then we can present it as a nature-based solution. If we look at our wetlands, we are using them for treatment of water and waste water. But most of our wetlands are now constructed. And when we construct in these wetlands, remember we are already reducing the space available for water to, let's say, to reduce, let's say, the speed at which the water is moving. Also, the role they play in this purification of the water is also reducing. So how do we ensure that we strike a balance between the two? Then, of course, protected area management. What are the protected areas we have? And then how do we ensure that they do not suffer from extinction? Of course, ecosystem adaptation and mitigation. Of course, you find that these are going to come back to the same. If we look at the nature-based solutions and water, what are some of the available combinations that are going to help us? And then the different co-benefits, which are going to be emerged from the application of NBS in water management. And then also, how can we apply NBS in managing flooding and landslides in both urban and rural areas? Because we find that actually, before we apply an NBS, we should be sure of where we are going to use it.
Before you proceed,
yes.
Can we, is it possible to have you wrap up in the next 3 to 4 minutes?
I think I have just, this is the last, 2 minutes, I think. Can I have just 2
All right.
minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so if we are looking at some of these strategies, so look at these examples. This is just, we are planting, we are planting trees as a way of conserving the environment, and we contribute to the effects of climate change, and this would be restoration of wetlands in order to improve water quality. So this table was just included to make a comparison between what is the difference between a restoration and then a nature-based solution. If we are restoring, what are we interested in? And then if it's an NBS, what are we actually looking at? So try to see the relationship between them. And then for the nature-based solution, this was talking about responsible production and consumption. These days, we are encouraging urban farming. So how are we also, we need clean energy and then the urban drainage systems. So how this is going to lead to we're producing the waste, but how do we ensure that the waste doesn't accumulate to reduce to environmental degradation? This is an example from Kenya. And then the last module is talking about investing in nature-based solution. So if we invest in ecosystems, we need the knowledge, the innovation, and then we transform it in terms of risk management. If we produce a health ecosystem, so how do we increase the resilience for the people and environment? And then we also included ways of implementation of NBS and the funding guidance. So this is just an example of a scenario, a nature-based scenario, and how we can use it to, if we were employing it as an NBS, what are the possibilities, or how does it affect the socio-economic well-being of the people? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor, for the elaborate presentation. Without taking much time, I know people here have been noting, so we are going in a time to discuss. We've understood what the course content is about. The modules have been presented, there are 5. The objective has been presented, build capacity on nature-based solutions as we promote champions for nature-based solution implementation. And also the practitioners, we are targeting the audience, we are targeting the practitioners, the people that implement, but also the policymakers. So we want to hear from you what you're appreciating about this course content. How can it be improved? I'm opening up the discussion. Thank you. We are not going to take, please be concise as you submit. Can we have, yes.
Thank you. I can be audible, let me try my best. Almost I probably missed one of the meetings, so forgive my questions. One is yes, after the what's the background again? I said I'm sorry. What's the background? I have a question goes to Emily. Yes, that is. Wait, there's the background under which program is like after this was outlined, we developed who is responsible, like where does it lie? Some form of a background. What was the problem? I know you are trying to build knowledge and skills and all that, but where exactly does this lie? And I think that will also take us to what next after its conflict. So where exactly is it going to lie, and maybe the time frame? It's to be delivered or how long, within which time frame. I started with that because it's basic. Then I'll go to some of the report text. Probably it's because I don't have the information at the first, but nonetheless. I think there's a lot of science in there, and it's very good. But I'm also thinking it's a bit narrow on aspects of policy, which we actually are going to need very much from some things to do with NBS. Probably not understood better, but I can deal. And then the issue of yes, adaptation is there, and the issue of adoption and scale up. One of the challenges with most of these EBAs and NBSs, they seem to remain within a certain community or sub-county in Chisoro, Beninaya. But then how do you, is the content going to help us capture the whole idea of scale up and expansion? And then I'm looking at this entire thing and the different target audiences. I'm not going to bring it up. Is there going to be some form of segregation to suit the different audiences? Because you have the scientists, the practitioners, but if you want to sell this to parliament, and our presidential advisors, the recent one, yeah, and the fact that I've seen a certain model on is it wetlands or something, me are thinking, Dr. Christine, aspects to do with renewable energy adoption and access. I don't know what your plans are, but the fact that some of them are standing up, we also realize that this overweight, our consumption and dependency on traditional battery biomass technologies. So, yeah, please like that. Another.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you, Dr. Christine. I don't see, very unfortunately, to appreciate the person you're not seeing. But with today's technology, we shall just go on. I really appreciate your module and the content. I'm beginning to think this one will wipe out the false solutions in our we just adapt solutions from wherever, then we implement them, they cause disaster. But really, I appreciate about the model. But another thing, how is it, this model, is it going to benefit my grandmom in a characteristic there? Which process to be sorry here? Thank you.
Thank you. Another. We are going to take that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is the course free? What is the cost? Yeah, and if, for example, I want to support my team, it's free.
How long is the course?
Yes.
We still have a option. Is it free?
Tell you what day?
Yeah, I want to ask a very obvious thing. With nature-based solution, something costs. Is it mindful that there will be children interested in the young ones interested in this kind of course, or and that will it preserve time for the children?
Thank you so much. I request that you allow as many questions from the room as possible. Yes, thank you. Number one, in line with what my colleague is asking, this is going to be a subject of the cultural policy. There is best practice, and this is the motive assurance is the line, because we've been promoting, we've been advocating for climate education for our kids, because the young people is so passionate about climate change. They will be so interested in nature solutions that are more sustainable when you look at the other approaches. So how can we cascade this motive down to the problem that the children in schools and primary school, we them now in holidays. Some of us who are parents to support our instruction movements, then sisters online. That's one. Then two, I would like to ask the doctor whether she took interest in appreciating the NDC framework, the Uganda's NDC framework, because it's very elaborate and it's a blueprint for what actually can, domesticate what she's giving. We look at the NDC framework speaks quite progressively about the interlinkages between the NBS solutions, but also a little bit bringing up the undertones in adaptation and education, but also giving out how NDC framework can be implemented, and especially on the issue of capacity building and gender mainstream. So it will be very, very important. And then lastly, I'd also interest Doctor to look at our energy transition plan of 2065. It actually is quite elaborate, bring out some of these how Uganda is going to focus on building, a sustainable approach towards the just energy transition, so underpinning the need for an energy mix, to see that actually the nature-based solution speaks directly to the core sectors of our economy, but also mainstreaming the issue of energy transition. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I think we have just said what I wanted to say. But maybe I'll add on saying that.
Just Christine.
Yes, please.
Is it possible to I think we need to pause the questions and then I can respond to some and then we can take another round, because unless you're noting down and then I'll respond to them as you ask, because I think they're becoming so many that I can't even write anymore.
Okay, let's have this very final one since it's a tie.
Oh. Yeah, before. Okay.
Okay, fine. So mine is really, I can see that there are strong linkages with because we have the global standard. Yes. And I've seen some of the components there are linked, but some are missing. I think she already pointed out the policy aspects. So we may want to revise that. The other question also is there an opportunity for us to actually look at the detailed course content and input to it? Because this is just a presentation, it's a summarized value. But probably in the detail, we can also build some more information.
Okay.
And then also, as IUCN, I'm a bit biased because we developed the NBS standard, but we've not been consulted during this process. So I don't know if there's a plan to engage us, because we also have an academy, and we actually have this as the body already developed. So how then can we look at the linkages and try to
Thank you so much. Doctor, you can respond to those. If you miss any, we can highlight them to you. Hello? Dr. Nagawa? You're muted. Dr. Nagawa, it is your turn to respond to the questions, but unfortunately, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Yeah, you need to unmute. That's if you speak. Is she off? She's off. Maybe it is the connection. I think as she comes back, there are some questions that Emily can respond to, so I will invite Jalia to respond to some of them. The mouth will. Oh, she's back.
Sorry, my internet has changed. I've had to change the device. So maybe as the other reconnects, I can respond from here.
All right.
Okay. So about the IUCN standards, we are developing the course content. This is not the last one. We are making consultations before we can come up with the final document. So our next rule of engagement is to visit the different stakeholders, and then we shall see how to improve the content that we have developed so far. So we are on our way. So about the global standard, you find that I just prepared a summary of almost everything.
Doctor, you can turn off the camera. What is the thing? The camera is Jalia, you can respond as we wait for her to come. Internet. Yeah, you can switch off the camera. Doctor, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So we are saying, someone asked, how does the grandma benefit from this NBS Academy? So before we begin the implementation, of course, our first role, as we said, is to train the policymakers and the practitioners. So once the practitioners have been trained, then it is going to be very easy, because then they're going to reach out to the different communities, and then they're going to explain this to the communities which will have been identified, and then we can design an NBS which can be implemented and which will be useful to that particular area where the NBS that will have been chosen is going to be implemented. As I said, what works in Kampala might not work in Kanungu due to the different locations. We are also thinking, as I said, we are going to start at the lower levels. How do we involve the youth? How do we involve our young children? Most of our children these days belong to different clubs. So if we involve a club which is in a school, which has been selected to participate in the academy, then the child is going to have access. About the course being free, I think Emily is in a better position to explain that. But as for the duration of the course, we thought maybe 5 weeks if it is self-paced. So each module can be covered in a week at your own time, or if you're very fast, then you can do it in a much shorter time. We can also take 5 plus or minus 1 week, and then you have covered all the content. So before you go to take the online course, it will be also important to have a one-on-one so that someone has a better understanding of how the course is going to be run. And then when you go back home, it is going to become very easy for you. Someone asked about the energy framework for Uganda. Of course, we said that there has to be a linkage between the different, let's say, programs running at the time. The Sustainable Development Goals, the National Development Goals. So the NBS is just one of the options which can help us achieve all our goals. Because you find that here, you can't say that you're producing clean energy. Once you've produced this clean energy, of course, we have to know, is it enough to support the community where you want to use it? So you find that then the NBS, which looks at clean energy, becomes a component of the wider program, which the government is planning to implement, just like the urban spaces or the green roofs. When you look at Kampala on a rainy day, you're going to ask yourself, do we have any engineers in the country right now? Because you find that it's like even rain, which is, let's say, 10 millimeters, is enough to cause flooding. So how do we work with KCCA engineers and then you as the civil society organizations? If we take on this course, what ideas are we going to suggest to ensure that that Kampala or other areas are no longer prone to flooding by using what is available to us? And then I didn't exactly understand the question from the person who asked I didn't understand the question from the first speaker when they opened up the questions.
Okay.
If she could be kind enough to repeat the question.
I think this could be best handled by Jalia here on what the problem statement is, why have we come up with this course content, where next, the time frame, how long, aspects of policy which we talked about. So I think this is best responded to by Jalia.
Okay, thank you.
Jalia, you can. Please excuse us for those comments that might not receive response because we are bad with time. Yeah, I'm actually not going to go through the details, but I just wanted to make like a conclusion. Some of the questions that have been raised here, the information is already implied in the course content. We will share with you the whole report, such that you internalize and perhaps make input where it is necessary. But if I may respond to what Carol highlighted, what is the background after the course outline? Maybe you came in late, a bit late. This whole idea was informed by a desk review, which we did as Emily, and it highlighted 3 very major challenges that are hindering the adoption and the sustainability of NBS implementation and design. And one of them was the knowledge gap. So as Emily, we thought it would be worthwhile to come up with a comprehensive capacity building program through the NBS Academy. That is how we came up with this course content. Maybe another issue, which is very prominent, it has come from IUCN. Mr. Moses Egaro has highlighted that as IUCN, they have a academy and they were not consulted. I would like to invite Mr. Wachika to come in and give a highlight of that. But all in all, we are going to share this, the whole draft with the team here, such that you have a deeper that one, a deeper appreciation of the draft, and maybe provide there, and thank Dr. for availing us time to take us through this. Thank you.
So, but it is responsible for not consulting.
As consultation, but as I've already alluded, a lot of information is already implied in there. So when we share with you the draft,
you'll see that already.
Okay, thank you
That's
so much.
last one would ask why the module had only those 5 outlines. We really had a number of issues. And the issue, although it has financial implications. This is our start, but we are hoping maybe to have another cohort if the funds allow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nagawa. A round of applause. Jalia for clarifying on some of the issues, and to the audience for the input that you've made that is going to enrich this content. So we are moving on to the COP now, away from NBS. We are moving on to COP that is happening soon in November. We heard from Jalia that we want to see if there are partnerships, if there is any support. So from the roadmap, we shall be able to tell, and from the state of climate change negotiations, we shall also be able to know which issues we really need to engage on, especially finance. Though people call it very complex. They want the monies, but they do not want to see how to simplify the modalities they are in. So I want to invite Mr. Anthony Wurimbwa, the coordinator of Climate Action Network, to present to us the state of climate change negotiations. Thanks. You can do 10 minutes.
That's the step.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a negotiator, I'm only going to point out certain just discovered. Let's see. Okay. Thanks so much. I think I'm audible enough. Okay, so I think the laptop is maybe near. Pardon? Hopefully. So I have a very simple task. First, I'm going to put some disclaimers. I am not a mainstream negotiator for climate change. I am simply a follower. But the role I'm playing is one of, today is more of a facilitative role. So I have just a few highlights. If you are looking for details, I do not have the details because the details are discussed in the various thematic working groups. So I'm only going to highlight 1 or 2 issues just to awaken your brain. And also didn't have the advantage of time. It came in abruptly somehow. So I'm going to deal with just a few matters. Good, Mr. Wachika is here.
I'm going to do that.
You will answer the questions. So, okay, we wanted to look at a number of issues. You know, last year we had the COP29 in the United Arab Emirates. And if you've been following the COP, the issues which have been discussed for as long as even 30 years, something like loss and damage, that you only came to have a decision last year. So here, I picked out on the thematic areas, the most critical ones, and the key one is the issue of climate finance. Now, the new kid on the block is the NCQG, the new collective quantified goal. There have been a lot of discussions within our fraternity on what it is. Initially, Mr. Semam and his government team were looking at the $100 billion per year by 2020. Now we are saying, no, we need a new quantified collective goal, and estimates put that between 2.4 to about $5 trillion. Kansas City has moved away from 100 billion. And for much of this year, there have been a lot of discussions. There have been calls to contribute ideas to the NCQG. Kine International has a whole paper. They just concluded it, I think, this week on that subject. The UNFCCC, I think there were discussions via the technical expert dialogue 10, which was done in June, and it hosted an in-depth examination of the elements of the NCQG. Just get used to that term. So, and their purpose was to ensure that it is ambitious, optimally structured, transparently reported on, and improves the quality of climate finance to developing countries. And that's the key issue there. The other key issue is that they are waiting for more contributions. There will be a meeting around October. Actually, there will be about 2 meetings in October. I've already seen from our side contributions to the ideas around the new quantified goal. Yeah, so, but what is still obtaining is that we still need to push for the 100 billion per year between 2020 and 2025. Of course, it was a failed target, but I think probably maybe the discussions the new discussions will be able to address that matter. So the issues around climate finance, the real elephant in the room is that one. There are others like modalities and so on, but those I didn't pick them up because the usual things we've been discussing. Our main target is the money, that final figure. Yes, then the loss and damage, the background, you had the loss and damage fund. And it was given a 4-year initial period at the World Bank. And it was an independent entity within the, and also what? An independent entity within the UNFCCC's financial mechanism, the 26-person board. So already their pledges were about 776. I'm not sure whether we had new pledges. Maybe you could be having a new figure. I don't have the newest figure yet. But of concern is that around the 10%, about 20% of it will go towards setting up the fund. So most of the money will again disappear there. And from our side, we had protested as a civil society to have that in the World Bank. But the World Bank says that it is safe. So they will try to give it the independence it requires. And of course, we still have our concerns because we don't want to be subjected to the rules of the World Bank. You know, and of you who has dealt with the World Bank and knows that. So the concern for LDCs, low developing countries, is on the institutionalization of it in the World Bank. But the World Bank has assured us that there will be no problem. And then somehow, but in the just concluded talks in Washington, those were some of the issues that we are pushing for. Then the Santiago network, because its role is to provide technical support to the L&D fund. So it was finally agreed to be located in the UNDR office. So somehow you are now safe. Then there's the ongoing negotiation about how to best implement and fund the Santiago network, because it still has a lot of challenges. Those of you are following loss and damage work, we need this network to be fully facilitated. But the key areas, the key elements now is how much money goes to the loss and damage fund, how is it going to be funded, how is it going to be managed. Issues at country level have not touched that. Maybe those will come in the various thematic working groups. Mr. Semamo still has a lot of work to do at the department to make sure that the loss and damage fund is fully operational in Ghana. So we will continue to make those demands. But at the international level, we have those issues around its hosting at the World Bank and the modalities around it. So we need to have that. Then mitigation act program, not so much our thing, but the key issues around there is that at COP28, there was the first decision under the Sharm el-Sheikh mitigation ambition and implementation program was adopted at COP28 is final day and focused on accelerating and identifying best clean energy pathways through to 2030, building on 2 global dialogues, one on power, one on transparent systems. But for us, if you were in the UAE, we still had issues on there are 3 things. There's a phase in, phase out, phase down of fossil fuels within the negotiations. So the contentious issues which remain on the language on either to phase down, phase out, and for countries like Uganda that are phasing in. So those still have issues, and that's it brings us to the issues of the energy transition that we have and what countries like Uganda need to do. So we have to be able to tackle these 3 things. Are we supporting a phase out, phase down, phase in? But I think there was an agreement in Dubai for a phase out. No, I think phase down. Because the countries like UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and others, look at it. If you completely remove oil from the equation, then you increase their vulnerability. They also need to transition from the heavy fossil fuel-based economy to something that is not dependent. By the way, has done that. Only 1% of the economy relies on oil and gas. It is countries like Qatar, Kuwait, Iran, Saudi Arabia that are still heavily dependent, and Nigeria on oil and gas. So, but the key elements here now are on, there was no substantial discussion on mitigation ambition. There are many brackets. When I say brackets, I hope you understand what brackets are. Bachika is here, I will explain. That they are unresolved matters. Those sentences need to be addressed, the issues there. They are tiny words sometimes, by, who, for, with, okay? And yeah, the lawyers understand this. So the language is still bracketed. And the issues of ambition remain the challenge. So, especially on the energy package language, because energy, is a major driver of climate change, or a major driver of emissions, so global warming and climate change. Then the other big element now, which is of interest to us, is on the global goal on adaptation. So we still have a lot of issues on global goal on adaptation, but good enough, the parties were agreed on a framework that countries could use to get their adaptation progress, and that this marked a big step forward for the global goal on adaptation. It was originally intended to raise visibility of adaptation, so it was on par with so that it is on par with the mitigation in the UN climate process. Because all along we've been pushing for a 50-50 recognition of adaptation and mitigation, but our friends in the global north keep pushing the higher, they recognize mitigation efforts than our adaptation work here because of the cost elements involved. So, but the beautiful things that there were some decisions which came up. People who are following issues like health, like Raymond here, there have been some positive decisions. Now, health is considered in the discussions, the negotiations. There are issues of agriculture, issues of ecosystems, infrastructure, poverty eradication, and cultural heritage. But the key issue remains on doubling down on the goal of the US 40 billion, could actually even be more. There are others who have said this is a small figure. So we've been and we still are pushing for doubling down on adaptation financing. So, and we need it to be a grant-based funding from the wealthy nations. But there's also the other element which is an issue for the negotiations. If you know the CBDR-RC, common but differentiated responsibility and respective capacities. Now, this language is being contested in the global goal on adaptation because the developed countries do not want to hear it. And for us, it is something that is very, very important. So, because it comes with elements of financing, so therefore, what we go to as a weak language on finance are no mention of a financial target. Because once the global goal on adaptation is sorted, first to look at how much money is required to finance adaptation. And yet we know from evidence that adaptation costs are 18 times higher than the current public finance flows from the developed countries. Yeah, so issues, lack of a quantifiable target in the final text. Then the issues of indicators. And also we need developed countries to prepare a report on progress towards doubling down on adaptation by 2025 and further scaling it beyond just doubling. So developed countries now have to come clear on that. And I'm sure we'll be pushing for them to provide their report on that. Then carbon markets, Article 6. Yes, at the country level, there has been a lot of progress. I know Mr. Sema will talk about it or Emma. Mr. Pio. I'm happy to see you. The PS said, no, the minister said he doesn't know you. No, but you're welcome. Thanks so much. So, be ready to answer some of the questions. Because for me, I'm just giving highlights. I am not providing any specific detail in my work, but I'm only touching on things that are likely to be good for our discussions. Yes, there's been some progress on Article 6, as you all know, both at the international level and at the national level. That is progress on technical aspects of Article 6, including carbon credit authorization, activity scope, international carbon market registry. Somebody will talk about that. There was a constructive discussion in Bonn to clarify a position on Article 6.2, 6.4 ahead of COP29. There's a lot of work going on Article 6.2, basically Article 6, but most importantly, 6.2, 6.4. So there's going to be a meeting, and that the supervisory body aims to finalize a sustainable development tool in the run-up to COP29 to establish environmental and social safeguards. I know Robert there has been looking for issues on environmental and social safeguards. You know what carbon markets will do here. Augusta is a tree planter, he knows what I'm talking about. There is a likelihood that when these things take shape, we are likely to see a lot of scramble for land. We've seen in Kenya, the last time we were there in the SCW, Africa Climate Week and Summit, there were allegations that the Kenyan government had signed off a number of hectares of land to the carbon traders from the Middle East. So, and the question is, what is it for people who operate in those rangelands, the Turkana, the Samburu, the Maasai, because most of what was like in quote sold off, you find it in rangelands. So there are those challenges, those environmental and social safeguards. What do we do? So these things need to be very, very, we need to go with an open mind and discuss them seriously. I hope our department has taken care of the environmental and social safeguards in relation to Article 6. So I want us to expand on that discussion. Already there are concerns. We receive sometimes people call and like, what's going to happen? Okay, just transition. Yeah, you know, there's been a quotation on just transition, what it is, definitions of what just transition is. still the language is a problem. Like here, I need my water, I think. It's a bit hot. It's a bit hot. I'm also growing bold. Like yeah, I'm growing. I'm still here. My friend, I was here during a mini time. Yeah. So the issue on just transition, there has been disagreement on the focus of the Just Transition Work Program, and the disagreement is between the developed parties and the countries like ours. The developed countries were looking at it from the labor transition. I think Mr. Semambo presented the one time at the training, the origin of just transition, and still finds itself here. So the argument is it a labor transition or something that is multilateral in nature? And for us from CAN, we look at it from what called the just transitions, okay? Human rights and so on. But unfortunately, during the discussions, issues of human rights somehow was very, very contentious. Actually, there was a decision that was taken in Doha. It was a closed decision, and some of the parties were not allowed, and the issues were around elements of human rights and stuff like that. So, but the key issue now is how to support Global South countries to undertake a just transition or just transitions. And the elements are on finance, on patent and license, issues of punitive tax and trade measures. Then on climate ambition, I think there's need to review the NDCs. I have seen, I think I saw an email from the NDC partnership. It came in yesterday, but I saw it in the morning. There's the NDC something 3.0. I'm yet to figure it out properly. But I'm sure the department is doing work on revising the NDC. With the second or third document now, I think. Isn't it? What your question on? I'm asking you what you do.
Let me write.
Yeah, the NDC. So by 2025, so we are looking at revising the NDCs, because the argument has been that if you combine all the NDCs, the target is way, way below. We can't even hit the 1.5 degree centigrade limit. So I'm sure there are going to be discussions around the issues of ambition and the NDCs. So from the Global South, how much ambition do we need to make? From the Global North, how much ambition do they need to make to be able to meet the targets as with the Paris Agreement and then the Convention? Okay, response measures. It's the last slide. Now, response measures are so many, but I picked out things of concern to us. And there's something which Siatini has been pushing. Specifically, there are two areas, the EUDR and CBAMs, these two elements. If you know what has happened, the EU deforestation law came to force in July, and the CBAMs will be entering to force in October 2024. Now, each of these ones have a lot of impact. Like the EUDR, for example, the questions are on how will it impact, like our export commodities such as coffee, cocoa, and other crops, or even minerals that we export to Europe, because they are trying to, the EU, that one mostly on the crop, but especially the coffee growers. And you know that most of the coffee here is grown by smallholder farmers. So the smallholder person, you are going to ask, because they will put something like, they will ask you to verify whether your coffee was established after 2020, and if it was it in an area that was previously forested? And the question is, who is there to prove, other than looking at remote sensing data? Because I could have planted my eucalyptus, but I'm, moving to do a coffee plantation. So would you also punish me for the same? Maybe I'm even removing eucalyptus, going agroforestry. So there are those issues that we need to discuss. And there's a lot of discussion coming down. You know, the university has planned the, call it what? It's a public, no, a webinar. There's going to be a webinar on EUDR at some point to discuss these matters. But for the COP, this we need to look at some of the response measures, because the concern has been that developed countries are unilaterally taking measures that are aimed at hurting some of these LDC economies. So like the EUDR and the CBAMs. CBAMs, I'm not an expert. My colleague there, Penny, is the expert on CBAMs and its impacts on African economies. So, and then the other point is that there was no conclusion on the work on the work for response measures. It has been forwarded to COP29. So there are others, but I thought I would pick these few just to highlight. I know we are going to have quite a number of discussions, and my job was simply to highlight, show you the state of negotiations, and the conclusion that we are still having a number of unfinished business, regardless of which thematic area you look at. Either adaptation, a lot of unfinished business. Mitigation, the same. Loss and damage, the same. Finance, it's like we've now just started a new war on new finance targets. Just transition, just definitions are becoming difficult even to take the negotiations. So I would like to stop here for a moment. And the other disclaimer is that Mr. Bachika will do for me what I have not talked about. You can add on. Thanks so much. No, but I'm appointed you.
Can we give another round of applause? If you want.
1 minute, can our colleague explain to us?
CBAMs.
Carbon border adjustment mechanism.
So CBAM is the carbon border adjustment mechanism, and it is the successfully applied on carbon intensive products, those that have been produced using carbon. So as like aluminum,
Iron, steel.
so all those that are being produced from countries that export the EU tax. So any product is any product that is already produced and has a component of that carbon production. So carbon will be taxed based on that. So meaning most of those products that come from most of the developing countries, and that will come. That will come on our export. So our products are exported. Making it challenging for those who are producing, whether it is a small or local industry, whether it is even in the state in which are also being produced, it will also be taxed on that. So it's also the same, it's also a national measure by the EU. Though they said it is a regulation, maybe not a direct, but still, all of them are national measures that are still impacting how countries will have to adopt climate change, but more also impacting Africa or developing countries, especially in their production.
Where are we in terms of understanding?
So for the EUDR, it is the Uganda, it's actually UCPA that is championing it because it is looking at coffee, and maybe there's already a roadmap that they're already doing most of the things like that. They need polygons that will map out where particular farmers are growing coffee, and also it looks at where that coffee is going from, and by whom. So there's a role of the UCDA to see how to sensitize small scale farmers, but also bring them on board because we see the challenges, but what really enhance the quality of the neither we enhance the production or the money that actually a small scale farmer gets. So it is still largely more to protect the EU's interests.
And why important to us? And why in the positive order? Why in the positive?
Because the coffee, the main exposure to the EU from Uganda, but there are other products that they're looking at, like more, but mainly it is on coffee. And those countries that are rolling it out have been given, we have a deadline already. So if we don't meet the deadline, products or coffee that will be exported will have to be implication. And most of it may not make sure
Let's go back to the script.
yeah.
You see, if you undermine a small chair leaves you until you sink to the bottom of the sea. Yes, thank you very much. I think that was a rejoinder. And when the development partner says, I want to hear, you have to respect. You have to respect. But thank you very much, Anthony, for giving us this status. This shows us that the civil society knows where things are. I remember 10 years ago, they would ask us, what is the status of negotiation? Then you say, things are bad. Things are bad without substantiating. But today, you can see the demonstration that there is a certain understanding of how far negotiations are. And we continue to urge colleagues to also interest yourself in a number of these negotiations. Time is not on our side. We are going to have one plenary, because I was seeing plenary was opening up more facility. So I'm punishing for that. So we'll have one plenary for all of the remaining presentations. And in this context, since we have had the status of negotiations from the civil society, then we thought it wise that we needed to also know how are the national arrangements for COP29 in the beautiful resort of Baku being handled. And in that case, I'm happy to inform the Climate Change Department is here to give us how far these arrangements are and how everything is going on. So allow me to welcome the representative of the commissioner to take us through. So are you going to remain here?
The chairman not allow me to remain here. So.
Okay, okay.
Let me just leave the smaller chair.
Thank you, thank you.
So it's still afternoon or evening already.
Both
of them to you. I'm presenting to just the progress, but just see this presentation. It is a progress that we keep on updating until when we have that time of the conference, the national conference. So we keep on updating this presentation. And my task is very simple, just to let you know how the organization are going on at global level, and how are we trying to domesticate them, building from what the Newman has said. So me, I work with Ministry of Water and Environment, but I'm designed by CRTM. Those who want to do this, those who want to do the same, I'm available. Just see my size.
I am protecting.
My size is not very big, so just look at the size, I'll utilize them effectively. Next. So, Chair, I'll be talking about these 8 things, but just briefly, in the interest of time. Next. So, this is like a background information. We all know that COP29 is going to take place in Baku, Azerbaijan. And the dates that are fixed for COP28, I mean for COP29, is actually, we are looking at 11th, 22nd. So, and this will be the location. Please will take this presentation to avoid getting lost while you're there. So this is the location where we shall be. Those of you who will go, but even those of you who attend online, that is the location. So the interest of making you to know the location, even know the time difference, that if I want to participate in this session, what time will it be in Uganda here, so that I can make what? Adequate forum. Next. So just to say that the co-presidents has set a vision and moral duty to avoid or to fit within the global target of reducing or fitting to 1.5 temperature target. And the focus is actually looking at how do we deliver the deep but the rapid and sustained emission reduction. It is very important because the co-presidents are given mandate to try to shape what will be the policy discussion. So the man to that, the co-president, is looking at sustained emission reduction to keep the temperature goal below 2 degrees. But in terms of doing that, there are several pillars that are being focused on. He has just mentioned how do you increase ambition, isn't it? In the NDC, whether NDC 3 or 1. So it is NDC number 3 that the current ones, even when you aggregate all of them, cannot make the world meet the 1.5. So it is against that background that the presidents for COP29 is looking at combining the key elements to ensure that all parties commit to increase their ambitions in terms of the NDC and the LTS, the long-term development strategies. Countries have to develop the national adaptation plans and the aspect of transparency at the center of the discussion of climate change at that level. So the rest about capacity building, about compliance, about everything, they have to fit into that. So the second pillar is to enable action, and actually this one is looking at the role of finance, of critical finance, and key tools that can turn ambition into action. So finance is extracted as we try to increase our ambitions in the national adaptation plans, in the LTS and NDC. Finance will play a critical role. So the quantified goal that we have mentioned is also very key. Very fast implement those commitments and the areas of NDC, LTS, and adaptation plan. So this is what the co-president has said for the country to focus on. So, Robert, the thing is not moving. Now, in so doing, there are a number of things that have to be done until when you have these negotiations done. So the co-presidency has identified these areas with these schedules. 11, some of them have passed. But the opening will be this. Here, allow me not to go through each and everything. The opening will be this, but it will run up to this one. So we'll share with you this, and you get to know on which day are these things going to be focused on. Those ones who say the energy, on which day, in this, on which day, in this, on which day. So this timetable is out. And the yellow one is the resting day to go and do what I don't know. But these other days, I want the structure, what to be done. And we shall share with everybody that will be going, including those who participate online. Next.
IT.
Why did you sit there when I'm not trying to comply?
You see, these machines also hang.
It is not yours.
Okay, that one.
Next.
That one.
So there are about, I'm not going to go into details, but there are about 14 key quarterly programs that internationally. And this is what we are trying to domesticate. There is something that we talk about climate change finance action. Climate Finance Action Fund. It will happen. And the detail for this one is that the fund will be capitalized with the voluntary contribution from the fossil dependent countries. We'll be discussing them. whether out, inward. So they have also considered themselves that they want to bring money into the basket. Fight climate change. Okay? So those who are negotiating finance take an interest in that. Okay? The fossil dependent countries have also energized and formed the cocoon, isn't it? So they want to bring money to ensure that they put into the basket to address these things, isn't it? So those who are negotiating money take an interest that is it a viable thing that for them they continue to produce oil and they put in money? What do you want to discuss in that game? So this is what we're trying to say. Then the Baku Initiative for Climate Finance, investment and trade. Those who are interested in investment and trade, these are some of the areas and the details here. Then the just transition, the detail is also provided. See, I'm just doing that in the interest of time. I know you share this. Then number 5, the green energy pledge will also take place. And it is also trying to provide the signatories to this ministerial pledge will commit to green energy corridor zones and grid what? The grid and grids. The initiative will also help to establish the necessary regulatory and institutional framework and identify the enabling financing to create the infrastructure to fill in the pledge. So all of these are being mentioned just to structure to avoid us just being rotated around. Let me use that word. So you relate this one, the other bigger program, which has been listed, but this one trying to give some bit of detail. The green energy storage and pledge will also be undertaken. Then the green hydrogen initiative, you always ask a question in there. So there's something there that you have to contribute to access the negotiation. But it is one of the agenda items that have to be discussed. Next, there are 14. The COP trace appeal, also one of the areas that have been focused. The digital action path for green world. It is also one of the areas looking at emissions in the ICT sectors. And there will be some bit of ministerial declaration and all that kind. It's also being structured in here. Investing in human capital, health and job for climate resilience future. Yesterday, the government of Uganda launched the HNAP, Health Now. So those who have keen interest into that, these are some of the areas that you have to take interest to. Next. Climate resilient, empowering farmers, villages, and rural communities. Plus that detail. We all been talking about communities when we came, isn't it? So some of these things will take place. In the interest of time, I'm not elaborating all of them, but this is trying to give some bit of meat of what is expected in that context. Then the Baku dialogue on water and climate, enhancing the action on climate change and water nexus. There are those who have interest in water. And there's so many nexuses are coming up, isn't it? Migration and climate change nexus. Now, water nexus and climate change. I mean, colleagues who are interested in the water and climate change, there's some bit of dialogue in here. But where you employ people that don't go barehanded, go with the facts, have some small concept note, isn't it? Because out of those that will be discussed, maybe there could be some people interested in taking it further. Okay? Next. Then there will be a ministry multi-sectoral action partnership. That is the map for sustainable climate resilient and cities. Those who are interested in climate change and cities. They also have that kind of product. Global partnership for enhanced climate change action in tourism. Tourism people also have something to contribute. And then partnership for reducing organic waste. Reducing organic waste. I mean, people who are interested in waste have to look at this. Now, the 14 are trying to consolidate the bigger program and some of the key side events that will take place during COP. So all of us are not be everywhere. Some of them will be even parallel. But this is important to take note. This is just small meat, but once you get this presentation, try to go into this and then you see exactly what is needed in that area. Next. So, as the government of Uganda, I think this is where we begin it from. The quantified corrective call is still very instrumental, including issues to lose loss and damage. I mean, finance is really very important, and who are discussing finance are still focusing into that direction. Okay, so we take it as government of Uganda that we need money. You've been talking about Article 6, the 6.4, the 6.5, but also the 6.8. So in that one, the modalities and the procedures and methods are still being discussed. Those who are discussing mitigation and carbon are fit into that. But we have progress and responded to. We have a carbon regulation. In a draft budget. You want to consider doing it? Okay, but the issue is the aspect of the social safeguards is very centered when it comes to our draft climate change mechanism. For us to call it a climate change mechanism, but normally for you call it, or anybody who is not part of climate change, call it a carbon regulation. It's called the climate change mechanism. So the issue to deal with sustainability is very central in terms of doing carbon business. We have taken care of that in all the consultations and the other part of it. And any project developer that will bring in an early climate change mechanism project, a carbon project, one of the criteria that we shall assess, how does it go to fit the issues to deal with social and environmental procedures and protection have to be assessed. So I give a trade, including the human rights. So it is very centered at that. And we know because internationally it has been observed that quality carbon should respect the human rights and environmental sustainability. So there is no shortcut. We have to assess some of these things. So it is ready. It is almost ready, because let me just give you some piece of information. The Minister of Justice wrote to the Minister for Climate Change just to clarify areas, but also to try to assure that the regulation goes very well. Because for them, they have already aligned with law. So we wrote back to them. They're going to give us feedback. They begin something. So the loss and damage, I think this one I've talked about, where the World Bank, you said that you've been striking. So continue to strike. But I think the deal has already been done. But the most important thing that we're looking at, how are you operationalizing this as a going to prepare as a country to fit into that. So the launch of climate change. The launch of Climate Finance Action Fund, an initiative of the Azerbaijan Cooperative Presidency, is also very instrumental. And this is what I've already mentioned, that those which are capitalized in contributing from oil and gas, they try to bring in some money in the basket. So we try to position ourselves. How do we fit into this? Then they're building a mutual benefit and partnership with bilateral and multilateral partners, networks and initiatives. This is core. If you're not a lead negotiator, you expect to contribute to that. The network and partnership are really very key. So we take them very serious. Promotion of investment. Robert, I didn't move your thing here. There will be promotion of investment, trade, and tourism as a potential for Uganda. I mean, when you go there, it's not only about talking ABCD, but also how to promote your country. Investments. Like we did in Dubai. We had a pavilion, but outside climate change, you could promote what you have back in the country and then try to see substitute, including what I've been mentioned about, the CBAMs and all that kind. Isn't it? How are we producing, for example? It's like a counteracting what? Measure, isn't it? Talk to people effectively, because what may assume that it's being done, maybe it is just the reverse. And then showcasing progress in climate action will be one important area that we have to take into consideration while at COP29. So we have to prepare in advance. Next. So what will happen in the run-up to COP28? We shall make dissemination of COP29 information paper to MDAs and non-state actors, and already this has been done. Have you received this information? Who is saying no? We communicate to all MDS, and then we get feedback, and nomination of the delegates is now coming. So what we're trying to do here, they need to follow up with, I don't know now, is it the chair? The secretary. The secretary from your side. Last time you wrote asking commissioner to do what? To operate some people, isn't it? When the first and you had a debate about it until when you resolved it now. So this is what we're trying to say. We wrote the government, police department agencies, they are bringing in numbers, but with justification. Don't want to go back to the papers, because for them they write anyway. Uganda has this number of delegates, including those who have attended online, because they went on what? Accreditation bottle of COP28, and extracted whoever has been accredited, including those who have gone and those who have stayed, and they put in the papers that these numbers go. So they are trying to avoid that. The concept note for identifying sources of the sources that are needed has been done. And this time around, don't have a free pavilion, by the way. We are given pavilion in Dubai. Now we don't have pavilion. And I think some of you have been called for that meeting about source mobilization for pavilion for the country. It is still something which is going on. Though we have got the space, but the payment has not been done. And when you delay, they keep on increasing in terms of the costs. So the cabinet information paper has been written, okay, and it is now going to the Supreme to submit about COP29. Next, accreditation of delegates is still ongoing, but remember, on case by case basis. Don't bring Bakari Puira, Mrs. Bakari Puira, this one Bakari Puira, this one. I'm just giving the example. As long as each is contributing. That's why you say on case by case basis, accreditation goes on. Because there are some countries that had facilities. For example, just an example. There are some countries who have enough facilities. But there are those which have facilities and then they are very kind of like strict on the numbers that you can receive. So we are looking for sending people who matter that category. But especially those that are what appointed by government. That is what will happen. Technical preparatory meetings have started to be done, those smart meetings. You have mentioned the two of them. We have a smart meeting on adaptation and loss and damage. We have 4 finance, okay? We have 4 mitigation and Article 6, okay? We have 4 compliance, capacity building, I've mentioned the gender. Gender and technology, there are 7 smart meetings. So far, each smart group is to make 4 cities. And the meetings have begun. Those who support adaptation, the first meeting for adaptation was yesterday. Okay? Now, the boss who is working on this one told me to mention this one verbatim. That from the civil society point of view, because we want to have some bit of coordination, that we do it like we have done it in the previous COPs. If Kanye is the one which is doing the secretariat, map out who is interested in what, map the group, and then submit to us to add them on to the list. Then, in writing me, I want. The free talk command will say, I want. My brother there, I say, I want. Isn't it? I usually say, I want. So we map out people in this room and beyond, and then strategize them in which smart and they contribute. Right now, they are added into that group of the invitation, the part. Capacity enhancement for the youth. This is about sustainability strategy, Robert. Talk about youth. So those of you who is gray hair, and are you, including me, we know that we are about to now we want to build the capacity for the young ones. So every year we approach our development partners that could help to support building the capacity of the youth. So at this time around, this has been planned on that date. That is August, on the 8th. I mean on the 18th. On the 28th, that they will be trained. Okay, the youth. The national position paper is planned on that day. You know that these thematic groups, after the discussion on consolidating, we form what we call the national position paper, is expected on that day. The national forum on that day, briefing on the 30th. Robert, I'm about to chase you.
I'm the chair.
Okay. The briefing for the what? Briefing for the delegates is planned for that date. It's good to have some bit of targets. It's planned for that date. And then you all know that Uganda is the chair for G7 President and China, isn't it? So during that, already have information from State House that the leader of the Uganda delegate will be the VP, unless when it changes.
When is the 7th of May?
When is what?
Going to go.
So, Chair,
You are protected.
you
are protected.
Trusting his neighbor.
You are protected.
The president has delegated the vice president,
I have
the
been
leader of the Uganda delegation. And during that time, there will be a side event at COP29 on the issues to do with G77 and China. So the date will be communicated, but it is important to those who are interested to take any interest in it. Because it will discuss climate change and beyond. Chair, this is just for government, but we think that it's also very important for you people to know who is responsible for what, so that when you are doing some bit of lobbying, you know the exact person to talk to. So the man that you are seeing here is from Azerbaijan and is the co-president. The one who has set that agenda.
Mukhtar.
Okay? Yes. And here is the deputy foreign minister who is also trying to coordinate with this man. Okay? So there is a chief executive officer. I mean, this is a team from Azerbaijan that if you want to lobby anything, you know who to talk to. And on the other side, it's just about giving you their roles as expected. Next. Their team is huge. I will not finish. We shall try this presentation. Next. This is their team. But from the Ugandan part of view, next. The head of delegation is that person number one. You ask him when is what? When is him going? Perhaps you have to write a letter through her to ask when him is going. Then the deputy head is this gentleman here, the minister for environment and the same minister for climate change. The technical head is what?
You are protected. You are protected.
The technical head is the permanent secretary of the Minister for Environment. Okay? It's the technical head. So know who to talk to in terms of addressing your issue. That apparently this is how it is standing. If there is a shuffle, it is natural. Isn't it?
You are protected.
People will lead the teams, isn't it?
You are protected.
The Commissioner Climate Change Department is the UNFCCC focal person, and we shall also try to provide all the contacts. But it will be very important for those of you who will participate to keep engaging at technical level and also try to contact the other first people that I've already mentioned. And then this one is the Ambassador Adonia Ayebare, whom the president has trusted to chair G77 China on his behalf, and also will be there. The CCD, Home Ministry of Environment, will remain there to provide secretariat as usual. Okay? Next. Now, these are what the negotiators. Now, the same members will give what? To be the secretariat. Okay, that is actually very good. To try to map out what the same members will be doing. They will be in the secretariat. On site and remotely, Robert will tell you what we do. Okay? These are the negotiators. I think you know them, isn't it? You can move. Adaptation, mitigation, finance.
I'm the chair.
Next.
And you talk to the chair.
Now, those of you that the secretary will recommend to various groups, you find these people chairing those thematic areas. They were already digested what is there, draft what, agenda at COP29, trying to bring it home for our discussion. These are the guys that will sit there to guide. Okay, next. This one is on technology. You know him, eh? I see you. You know him, eh? This one is for capacity building. This one is for gender. Okay, next. This is my last slide. Areas of support for consideration by you people. Robert, can you remove this thing? By what? By CSOs. I've told you that pavilion is for payment. If you have resources, please don't close your eyes. Okay? Raymond, you want to take on this one? Okay, we are still looking for resources for the pavilion. If you have some resources, please feel free. The thematic group areas are also convened, but if you have some bit of resources, you can say for us, you can facilitate for adaptation, no problem, or mitigation, or what, where you have interest. Okay? The thematic group areas told you that they are to have 4 meetings of each, isn't it? And what you have to do is actually this refreshment, ensure that people have something like that. If you have interest, please come in. Some of you sometime back used to take us for COP, isn't it? But you no longer want to take us. So, if you have negotiated that you can support, go for COP. Please, the window is open. Okay? The window is starting. I can continue putting on this. The window is open, but on serious note, this is also very important. Preparation of the national position paper, there are always technical reviews. Last time, I think it was supported by Regenerate, isn't it? Yeah? To complete this position paper that we had. So you discuss in the thematic group, but there's a small team that sits align this thing technically. We have this. I think last time we were supported by Regenerate. There's technical review, there's editing, there's the printing, and then support of the national forum. Feel free to come in on those areas. Who to contact? So this is what I wanted to share in a nutshell. So it is just work in progress. We keep on updating. Like I was whispering to you, if there is a reshuffle, then we get a new picture there. You heard it? We get a new picture there. So we keep on updating, depending on what? On the circumstances and situation. So we will continue as I see this presentation. We updated what? More. So I thank you very much.
Round of applause. Edward, I didn't see you clap. Edward, some of you don't know him, but these were the pioneers of negotiations in the civil society. So when we have people who have the history where civil society came from as far as negotiation, we are most grateful and honored. If you have questions, comments to CCD, that's the representative of commissioner, substantively the acting assistant commissioner for adaptation and mitigation, put them down. Time, we are beating time. Where is IT? We have a second presentation. So we have seen the preparation for government. And we have seen that the government has 5 what? 5 needs. So we are going to do the presentation now on the civil society.
And for it is not needs, it's support. Areas of support.
So then we will compare and see how to reinforce each other I don't know, are we doing that?
I was projecting using this. I'm sending to this.
Okay, send an email. As she's sending, can I open for 2 quick questions to the commissioner? 2 quick ones. A lady and a gentleman.
You want to ask?
No.
Okay.
My name is
Robert?
Yeah, Mr. Machika, I live with the negotiating team because
Are you asking me?
last year, we were going to what he talked about, train the young people on negotiation. And I was running being a senior negotiator, doing negotiation with finance, but I said, but also my senior colleague answered and said that you're coming up with an updated, you are revising the industry framework. I know that I think it was 2023 when we submitted the updated version that we have right now. That is sets our ambition at 24.7% of the reduction for the greenhouse gas emission. We had need the climate financing of about $28.1 billion US. And I don't know what's the state of the mobilization of that money. Is that we are making this roadmap towards this climate mobilization.
Thank you. I want to reiterate, feel free to pick a cup of coffee because time is running. You might not have a breakout session. We want to leave this place 20 minutes past 5 because really traffic is piling up. Where is the female who is ready to ask Commissioner? Do you know why they amended the Succession Act? You know why, Richard? To make sure we have female heirs. That's how tough women have become in Uganda. And if you have married one, and she has seen you, will be ready for problems. So any lady wants to ask Commissioner, or is providing support to 5 of the areas that are requiring support? Okay, I'll still first keep it to that, and now want to hand over to the representative of civil society to present the roadmap. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wachi. Colleagues, I want us all to be part of this. Philip.
Cheers.
You are the big man here, so I want your attention.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is our roadmap as CSOs. Next. I won't dwell much on the background because most of it has already been alluded to by Mr. Semambo. Allow me to write on his background and introduction, but maybe for emphasis, while we are negotiating the new quantified goal, let it take into consideration our needs as Uganda. Yeah. Then Article 6, I know a lot has been done here, but you want to see it operation once and for all. Let's not keep pushing on and on. And lastly is the loss and damage fund. We want to see the money flowing to us as Uganda. Next.
Chair, are those questions?
Emphasis. When you go for negotiations, you need to be emphatic on that. Yeah, this is our roadmap. I'm going to run through it quickly. I already see some synergies, and we need to see how we can harmonize with government. We are having please note, the costs here, those are provisional. So they're entitled for discussion. You can as well propose, maybe higher, Robert, maybe lower, provided what you have. In terms of our first activity, it is the first preparatory meeting, which we are having now. Then the notification to CSOs about COP29 registration. this hasn't been done yet. I know Mr. Wachika will send that notification to all CSOs for registration. Then accreditation, we are giving it a timeline of between August and September. And in terms of the accreditation, I've spoken to the representative of Swagen, and he alluded that they have 5 slots. They had 10, the 5 are already taken, so they are having 5. So in case of any other partner that has other slots, please, let's see how we can harmonize and see how we can maybe support CSOs in terms of the accreditation. The planning meeting still, we planned to have 3 more, apart from the one we are having now. Please note that this has been supported by Emily under WWF. We are having support from WWF, but still we see it is not enough. We invite partners who have maybe additional money for the planning sessions to come on board. Then thematic group meetings. Mr. Olimwa has already talked about this. I know they will be inviting us and sharing us details. Development of COP29 CSO briefing paper. We are giving it a budget of 24. I don't know who is taking it up. The media campaign and outreach, we are giving it a budget of 24 still. And here we tend to have radio talk shows, TV talk shows, articles, and press conferences. Please note, these are all open. They're not taken by anyone. So in case of any support, please. Development of state's opposition paper to COP29 and the National Climate Change Forum. Mr. Semamba has already shown us the timeline for theirs as government. And remember, we are supposed to fit into government. So we are planning this one in October, and the budget we are giving it is 15 million. And we intend to print around 100 copies of these position papers and disseminate, but also support 20 CSOs to participate in the National Climate Change Forum. The CSO preparatory workshop, I think we need to change. I think this one needs to come first, but these are, it is provisional. We gave it a budget of 36 million, and we are looking at 40 CSOs, including media and private sector combined. Then participation, it is open. We didn't budget it because it is on. We are not into supporting CSOs to participate, but it is open to all those that have support and maybe have been accredited by government as you had. And we are looking at least 10 CSOs supported to participate at COP29. It is supposed to be 29. Then COP feedback workshop. We are projecting this in Feb 2025, inshallah. And the cost we are giving it is 48 million. It is still provisional. We know it can go higher or it can be reduced. I know we have our big brothers here who can, who can assist us. I don't know, Moses has left. Moses, are you saying, Anna is here, Accord can take it up to do the feedback by themselves. So, Chair, that is what I have to share with you. Thank you.
Another round of applause. So I have not more than 5 minutes. And I want now to have the last agenda item, which is takeaways and the plenary discussion combined. So the floor is open. As you help me address the last agenda item of takeaways, but as you discuss the roadmap you have had from government and also the roadmap for civil society. We have seen areas of convergence, and we have seen where we can leverage each other. If need be, you can even have a joint forum if you work hand in hand and things flow as planned. So the floor is open. I want to continue with the offer I made. Females, such that you don't amend the rules. We have suffered with inclusivity. Inclusivity are the first us to have registration, have male, female reports ensuring a fair balance. Yes, Anna.
No, it's clear. I thank Julia for the presentation. Just as an action point from this meeting, based on what Mr. Semambo said, we need someone responsible, maybe Mr. Onimwa, to share that information required for CSOs to be part of their CMO group meetings.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Edward.
Thank you, moderator. Thanks for Semambo and Julia for this roadmap. However, Semambo says the other one is keeps being updated. I don't know whether this one also will keep being updated.
Yeah.
And is there room for sharing these roadmaps so that we keep at bay as we move forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roadmaps will be shared both the email, but also this workshop is recorded on YouTube. So just share the YouTube link. We are tired of these reports which take long. So if you want to justify you have been attending this workshop, there's going to be a YouTube link after here. Click on it, everything will be there. But one thing I know, as we have had, we will continue to update some of the things. Already, Gary has said there is an activity which came before the other, so still work in progress. Yes.
Just to be sure, the automatic one is in here. It's only says automatic one. The information from here is what we put into that automatic one.
That's a good question.
And the other this, I don't know what our debts timeline, it will begin there as if we are to feed into.
Okay. Need for alignment of the thematic groups for CSOs with the national thematic groups of government. I think that is good for the secretariats to note, while noting that there has always been a recommendation to have a specific thematic group for youth. If I recall the last previous pre-COP, and also expanding the thematic groups under civil society. Also that health should be a standalone, and so forth and so on. So these are quite good insights. Any other? I'm not hearing on the financial flows. Richard?
No, it's the same point on the thematic groups. Because the agenda that he mentioned and the agenda that we have there, we seem to be talking about the same thing. I think it is very important because the data I see is August, which is now. And
August to October.
Which is August, which is now. And also we need to really get the modalities right in terms of how this side fits into the other side. What I heard him say was that they have already started. And this side, we haven't started.
We haven't met.
We haven't met.
Now we have met.
Okay. So, but we need to do this very quickly.
I think just adding on, one of the most urgent things that we need, like I said, that through the secretariat, map out who is interested in it. One person cannot serve it. Now you give us that list, names and contacts, maybe email and what? Email, the organization and phone number. then we submit onto that emailing group of different thematic groups. And what we are sending are people that are going to represent you to give you feedback when you are meeting.
I want to add this one here. That even before we are so much interested in changing the government. That's why I asked that question. The government thematic architects and all that. Let's focus on our positions. And for intent of it, in the transition, and we can have just two representatives added to that. Yeah.
Chair, I think that is a good move, but also just important not to lose out context. Because what's going to be discussed, that's why I said that this thing will keep on developing. There are some items that people are still pushing on the agenda. There's mentioned about maybe health may come, isn't it? Yes. And they also added on the agenda of what? COP29. So what I'm trying to communicate here is that you discuss things which are not out of context. So it is better to know what is there, then as you're discussing, decide that is you're trying to some bit of alignment. That's what I'm trying to propose.
So can we look at the seven? For each one. Yeah.
Even we can accommodate two, have no problem. But if you have to in each matter group, provided you are comfortable that they will give you feedback of what is being discussed their side.
Okay, that one we take.
Yes.
Raymond.
Where some are stopped. Issue of feedback. Our members who attend these committees, the themes, you find that even when you go to the sessions, you're not appraised on what's happened. Why do you remember themselves? So I remember last year I struggled to get some feedback of the thematic groups under ministry because members are not we're not getting feedback directly from what have been discussed. So by the time you go there, all these things have been taken by events. So how do we streamline through our secretaries to ensure that there is feedback to the members, not updated on this, other than only having people participating, but there is no feedback given to the members?
That's a good question.
It's very, very important.
For the secretariat, how do you ensure feedback? Already Anthony is representing all of the CSOs operating in Uganda, the topmost body. That is the National Climate Change Advisory Committee.
Yes.
But how is he updating even those that are outside? Can you? I think those are the things that Raymond is asking. Okay? Anthony, you will defend yourself. You will defend yourself. I will give you the platform. I saw a hand here.
Just want to kind of respond to Raymond. That I'll speak for adaptation thematic group because we always come up with minutes of every meeting. So make sure that the people that are representing we should share with you the minutes. Because also the minutes keep on stay informed in how we shape the position.
Thank you. Those are pre-progressive. Any other question before we go into response and the key takeaways?
Chair.
Yes.
On the 5 areas of support.
Yours.
Yes.
Yes.
Ours.
No, yours.
I'm told you, but I'm part of this family. I'm just now. I'm part of this family. So I think for now, people may not commit now. But when you think through, if you also to communicate through the secretariat, you got to know that maybe as different organizations, which area can you contribute? Even if you support one bit, it's enough.
Okay. I think I would encourage both the ENR, can you, secretariat, please take note and be responsive. When the government asks for support, don't keep quiet. Please.
Talk to the members.
Please. So, colleagues, now we would wish to get feedback. I want to start with Anthony. Then I would also invite the ENR Secretariat to throw some light and feedback. And any other membership-based organization. I saw PACJA. I saw which one else? I didn't see Peram.
No.
I didn't see Peram. Okay, we will follow up them. Yes. Can you, boss? No, you are the Can you coordinator. We have the Can you, boss. Apologies. Apologies, chair.
So the day is full.
It's for the coordinator.
It's property with the sanctions.
Yes, Anthony.
That's the second of two. They are going to already have the structure. Secretariat already had a list of who belongs to the case, but they already can have them on WhatsApp. So what I've asked the secretariat to do is not pull out names, but to make things more organized. I think, following your submission, you might have to send in the thematic leads accountable, the members of those groups. Because for me, as really, I don't play very well. Now we have that structure, so we're going to activate it. Monday, we'll write an official letter to the commissioner's office, notifying the members of those groups and the thematic leads. So you have the challenges for leadership of those groups. That will be done. Then should be able to get that accountability mechanism because in terms of difference. That's the response. Then the other thing is we work the DNR team so that we host these smart workshops. With or without money, we have online function. Our Zoom account is very operational. Yes, we subscribe. So whether we do it physical or virtual, we are going to have this. Members have support, we welcome it. Well, we don't have sufficient support system done here. We'll do the online, it's cheaper for us. Yeah, but still you can afford to.
Yeah.
Million shillings. But
I thought I can give this.
There's one platform. So we'll do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anthony. ENR.
I think members here are looking at that roadmap and thinking about the budgets. But I want to, like Anthony has said, are there any members who like in time? If they are available, can we know them what they do? So that, as you have said, you have your Zoom license, you can be meeting. If somebody has another thing, another, we get to know them. So that we align them along the roads.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. I would encourage the colleagues who are here, when you see something which can be integrated in your work plan, just send us a note, such that we take note. You see, some donors don't want to be over presented and talked about. Some presented, they want to do things slowly. So
all the budget is not in the currency, understand?
So I would encourage.
I would as well think like what Ivana was saying. Anthony and the media assessment to capture the actions of this meeting. Because the members here are few. They are few, yet the network is big. These are two networks championing the cause. And many of them have not seen this roadmap. So Emily has kick-started on the process. Now what Anthony and Carol need to consolidate within the membership, tease out and interest the membership with this product. And we follow up with the timeline.
Okay.
Somewhere, a member will say, oh, I didn't know the process had started. So what do you want me to do? How do you want us to support? at what level we get involved. So that one, in a way, we shall be positioned to have people making commitments, even those who are within here. They cannot pronounce now, they need to go and share, then agree on where they can.
Thank you very much.
What media has said, the 5, and even ours, the very many.
Thank you, Chairman Bakari Kira, for being so strategic. So we take note of this action. Yes, Carol?
About to let us see, we can't really say. But just to assure the members here, have some very, very good resources that can at this time, if you want systematic. Yes, so we want to calculate and it's two answers. I think it will not be at African.
Please, can you give a round of applause? I told you the donors we have, they talk slowly. We don't want those big things. So really, we want to thank the CSO network for leading the journey towards the implementing this roadmap. You see, it is bad to plan, and when you check your plan, you are still where you had developed it. So we encourage a number of you to take time, think through, but also don't forget the 5. Don't forget the 5. One of the big 5 is the pavilion. So that one I will continue to remind you. One of the big 5 is the pavilion. So as you think of this, also you think of the 5, which you saw somewhere. Yes? So any other partner in the room who has a commitment, support, pledge? As I wind up, I've really eaten 5 minutes into your time, so I really need to wind up.
We know we can tell.
So
I would also encourage those who are going to be making administrative announcements, please prepare such that we have a seamless conclusion. So as I wind up, I want to say that we will continue to reach out to a number of you. And please, when we knock on your doors, please open up. I know we have really worked with the 5 key organizations over the last 10 years for this work of COPs. But I know some organizations are tired of seeing me in their doorways. When they see me around August, September, they say you have come. So this time I feared to come. That's why I said it would be good when we come together and plan ahead. Over the years, we are thankful to partners like Accord, partners like Siatini, Peram, ActionAid. Remind me, because if you miss a partner here, you might be held accountable. Yes, Oxfam, WWF, IUCN. So really, we really want to diversify the net such that we don't continue to knock doors the same people. We have moved this journey with a number of you. So this time we need the environment shield. We want to see BioVision, Africa. We want to see ADNET. I saw the new Uganda boss. So we need to see the new Uganda boss also coming with an envelope to see how we can move together this journey. I know we have Package Uganda. You're implementing some activities. Okay. So how do you ensure those activities? For example, if you're planning a big workshop, a big training workshop, how do we liaise with the two networks, and then you slot in a day or two, or maybe a thematic group meeting around your workshop. And I know that's how we have been disturbing a number of you. We have always had challenges with the mixing agenda items. One of the best memories I had in 2013, Accord had to link us on an agenda item of oil and gas and climate change. The minister had refused to come, saying he never wanted to talk about oil and gas in 2013. But Accord had told us, if you need my money, the budget I have is the coalition on oil and gas. So find how you link oil and gas and climate change. I remember we spent 5 days writing a concept note, linking oil and gas and climate change. Now you have had my colleague Penina Siatini might be having a budget on trade. And now this time she wants you to bring coffee. How climate impact will affect coffee trade. To justify how you do a pre-COP. So you can see the dilemma as always we go through. Health, here is Raymond. Raymond might tell you, I have the budget, but I want you to make sure one of the agenda items is health adaptation. So colleagues, that is the flexibility. That's the flexibility we have been moving.
Yeah, I'm ready to support you in the concept of not writing. These things.
So that is another TA which we have noted. So I want to conclude the key takeaways, but also underscore the support which we are getting, without forgetting one of our key deliverables, which is always the CSO position paper. I would continue to encourage a number of you that even if we fail to get this money, as we said, let's work through the usual arrangements we have been doing, the in-kind support, and prepare the CSO position paper. This is one piece of evidence which many of us continue to show. First, these two networks are alive. Some of you don't know. Who knows when we started CAN in Uganda? Apart from Anthony, he read our document. Timbawa was in coalition. USCD. That is a coalition. Anyone? You people, you are forgetting. Chimbawa in 97, that is when you did the coalition to go to Johannesburg. That is the Johannesburg. But can you remember Honorable Ario, Jessica Ario, the late? Ario. Can you? First, we had a can you somewhere. Yes. I don't want to go into that. But then we ended up agreeing to formally come together, and we should always be thankful to Oxfam that CANU was given birth in 2008, and it was launched in 2009. The same year, the ENR CSO network was also launched. So both these two networks share a common understanding. However, we continue to ensure that the two networks continue to work and support each other, because that is the spirit of multilateralism. So some of us are happy to see two networks that have tested the time since 2008, 2009, up to 2024. I think that is the spirit of keeping institutions working. Let us not be the one that will weaken these networks. We need to ensure that they continue to serve even the future generations and continue to lobby and advocate issues of climate, environment, and other associated things. So as I wind up, these are the key takeaways. One, reactivation of thematic teams. This is the CSO thematic teams and leads. And this is going to be taken on by CANU. The timeline we are giving is the urgent, which is the Monday, 26th. Okay? The second action is the CANU to work with ENR on holding thematic group meetings. The third action is that one is going to be also, I think, next week. We put urgent, though we hadn't agreed on the timeline. We would leave the two networks, but please, by next week, we really want to see how they are moving. The third action was sharing the roadmap with the wider membership. I think that is from Chairman Bakari Priya. So this is urgent, and we'll do it also by Monday. We'll leave it to all networks, all of you. Uganda Coalition, Latini, ERAM, CAN, ActionAid, and others. Already we have received the offer from the ENR CSO network, which we are most grateful to support one of the thematic group. And I think those are the 4 actions. Have I missed any?
Specific on adaptation.
They asked a question, and when they asked, they said, we will. They didn't say we are going to support adaptation. So let's not look ourselves. Yes, I see 3 hands. Let me start with Gasta, then you and
Thank you very much. The CSO position thing, I think we better start early.
Start early.
Normally, we wait towards the end, and towards the end, and then we fit it right in. So we could set up 2 or 3 people who sit there, and in every meeting somehow they collect data, they put in the draft, and such that when you require the paper, just push it out.
Okay, so this is now number 5.
Yeah, and if they are volunteers, I can volunteer.
Thank you very much. So number 5 is development of the CSO position paper. And already we have 1 volunteer, tree talk class. Okay. Yes, Richard, you had your hand up.
My point was again that I come back on this one. I see also that is a heart of the matter.
Okay.
Get that what we want. So the modalities, this is also urgent. So before to agree on who does what, especially in relation to the government, but also on our side. So I think we also task and to grant that secretariat to speed this up.
Okay. Anthony, that also comes to you. Your hand was up.
I was just information. There's a caravan going on the Oxfam.
Okay.
Probably, I don't know whether they invited Oxfam.
We invited. We wrote
There's
to.
a big activity which is going on. It's in the east. So it's in those areas. Just so probably we factor that in at some point because it all contributes to come to Kampala. But they weren't sure what program is on our side.
Okay.
And that speaks to the issue of
Okay. Colleagues, we have always been blamed for coordination. I have always asked myself, what is the silver bullet to coordination? Because every year we try all our best to bring all of you together, but still some of you deliberately go and act unilaterally. Maybe that is a mode of work which we can't force some organizations, but I would encourage, it is always good to seek a way how you can bring others on board. We have had some events which are really painful. You find a partner has spent too much money, but because he decided and deliberately worked alone, the event becomes absolutely challenging. And you find that even when he wants a government representative, he tells you, I sent a letter, people even are not responding. So we would encourage partners, when you are planning events, let's see how we can all come together and we support each other. Because that is the way we can leverage each other's expertise. Get me? But if we continue, you want to your activity here, the other there, we will continue, everyone reports to a different donor, but ultimately your impact and effect will remain either invisible or insufficient. So for me, I always plead, and I will continue to remind a number of you and your colleagues, please, there are these activities which bring us together, which we call joint. One of them we identified a long time ago, before even a number of you joined the civil society, as well as 2728 have been ministerial reporting, annual program or the joint sector reporting. We said this one, they would never work as a single organization. Let's work with networks. The other we agreed on are these COP processes, no single organization. Let's work. But painfully, I find some of you fidgeting. You find them fidgeting with position paper, bringing issues. Then you say, but this thing is coming from where? Where are the civil societies? You have engaged. It is good to move your own agenda item, but it doesn't go far because it is difficult for you to navigate all of those alone. Anthony can talk to the minister when he's going in the mountains. He just stops in Imbali. He gives him the CSO positioning paper. You get me? Then Augusta might be looking for some planting materials. He talks to EU. You get me? So this is how we are trying to leverage each other's effort. So I would encourage Anthony, all of those partners of ours who are doing similar related events on COP, let them, even if they notify you by email, let them notify you, circulate wide, and we see how we support each other. It is sometimes painful to pay Africana for 100 people and you have 20. Yeah? I don't know if some of you have had those experiences. You have paid for 100 people, then you start moving around in the corridor. You can't speak. Please enter. But we are a membership of almost 200 plus, organization. So let's stop these past mistakes and support each other to go forward. I welcome lastly the idea of Augusta. We needed to move Anthony. I know Khan also has the challenges with the thematic leadership. And being honest, for the last 10 years, we have never had a thematic lead for mitigation. Am I lying in the chair? Coordinator? We have failed. For the last 10 years, Why? Because no one wants to take leadership. And these are challenges we face. That is one of the thematic group which has had a natural death in ENR and CAN. Everyone wants loss and damage adaptation, because it is easy to go and say adaptation, we need adaptation finance, climate finance, too crowded, gender, everyone who thinks you work with a feminist organization, you want to go for gender. So what I'm encouraging, Anthony, please let's expedite this work. Let's have these thematic leads given clear TORs, even if it means to appreciate them. We will find a way how we can appreciate them. Sometimes donors interest us. Donors start at the tail end asking, whom do you think we can send it to COP? So it is easy to just say, oh, Gasta is the chair of this group. Gasta, you can go. At one time, 3 donors identified one person for 3 support. 3 donors. Simply, he was the most vibrant. Oxfam was saying, ActionAid was saying, then another member was saying the same. So we told them, but why don't you, give us something? They said, but who else? You get me? Let's not leave all these things to the Nakates only. Because when the donors are saying, everyone is calling, Vanessa, have you got any support? Vanessa, have you got any support? Also, this younger girl becomes overwhelmed. EU is giving you per DM of this. This one is giving you this. So you become confused. But if we had many of you, it would be easy to market. But now it becomes difficult to market when we have one good tomato. So let's see how we get other tomatoes. And I encourage females, especially our female colleagues. Sometimes the donors are funny. They say we need 2 female not aged above 30. Then you say, now, how am I going to look for someone whose age? Not aged above 30. And she should be active and be there for pre-COP up to end of COP. Those are 3 weeks. You get me? Then now you try to move. Anna is a mother, you can't disturb her. Carol is a mother, you can't disturb. Then you have failed. So these are the challenges we go through, but we will continue to encourage Anthony. Please help us, let's expedite the groups. I think as I wind up for us, as Emily, we will continue to see how we can support colleagues to always come together. This time we are trying to prevent the issue of picking items to finance. But let's see how we continue to bring all of you together. I believe as we continue to meet, we will be mobilizing more funds than saying we support this slide. So let's see how we continue to bring each other together and see the power of mobilization. On the volunteers for the position paper, I would encourage that this is good. This is good for the start as we farm up the thematic leads. Thematic leads can join, because I know there is also some politics there. Anthony knows ENR will say, I want to lead adaptation. The member to lead adaptation should be ENR. Then CAN might say no, because we are the ones who are also having money here, so we should be the one to lead. So I expect those conversations. So as they continue to go, let's have volunteers, like Gustav said, who can now start to pile up from what Anton has presented. And I think for us as Emily, we can continue to support that small volunteer team to work on the position paper, especially the convening, such that we have a product, like Gaston said, before it is too late. And if we can have 2 additional in this room, then we can start that also, such that we move these things parallel. I don't know the secretariat, how you see that? Or you think we should give you the mandate first, you sort yourselves? You see, we don't want to lead our networks. It is bad if a member leads the boss. We want our networks to be the lead. Huh? We give you the mandate. Fine. We will wait for the networks to tell us such that we can move a bit faster. But before I forget the 5 priorities you have had, yes. Can I repeat them for you? Pavilion number 1.
Pavilion
number 2.
Pavilion number 3. Pavilion number 4. And pavilion number 5.
Please always remember the 5 demands, actual needs from government. Okay? So with all of that, I want to thank you for really the flexibility. Robert.
Media campaign and outreach.
Yes.
COP29.
Yes, please.
Radio talk shows, TV talk shows, articles, and press conferences.
Yes.
You talked about people active. Once they are identifying somebody, one of the things that you are required is social media, how you're using your social media.
True.
You know, you can't say I'm an active climate, activist when your timeline is full of selfies and they just say, nothing connected to climate, the cause that you're pursuing.
True.
So I think it would also be important to leverage social media to supplement our traditional media approach. Those of us who are writing articles, you need to start now. The city is running from September to November. You should start now, so to be able to at least have a big volume, big volume of the conversations, especially some of what is going to be discussed.
True.
The reason why there was an uproar and buzz around the 600 delegations that they probably didn't understand that actually it was important as many Ugandans there as possible. So they looked at that one as a disadvantage. I didn't know what was being discussed. So I think we need also to populate the positive side of Uganda's participation. Like now you talked about the affiliates leading towards it. I think if we say that it's an opportunity, it would be much easier to mobilize the money because someone says money for what? Okay. So I think we need to create that momentum. So it's a digital era. We need to have a lot of social media presence, especially cascading and populating most of these discussions and the positive side of what our focus is as a country.
Thank you very much, Robert. And this also is an observation to our networks. Our networks, you are too weak on social media. To be honest, Kanu is active on WhatsApp.
Now it has picked up on Twitter.
It is active on WhatsApp, including the chair. Is active on WhatsApp. ENR CSO network. What is posted in Kanu site, you see it popping up in ENR. But what we are simply encouraging, by the way, you people, you don't know this, the power of social media. Social media is now a very key tool, like Robert has said. I would encourage our networks, please and please. We tap into, there is my colleague, what they call who? The digital influencers. Carol yourself, when you post, it is Bachika who visits once, who will reply and say, well, thank you, a thumbs up, but Bachika has no followers. You get me? But there are these people, the treacherous of this world. They are the ones who have 500 plus followers. So when you call it what? Retweet? Now it is X. Now I don't know. When they come back to you, then things will flood. So our two networks, please and please, as we are building the roadmap, can you tap in the power of these digital people? The digital influencers, and let's make these X accounts active. Make them active. Stop being on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is for us, we know. And we know you. And we know the beautiful things you are doing. But externally there, other people need to know the good work. So please, if you can put all that energy on the X and others, that will be good. And really, Robert, thank you so much. Yes, the commissioner, your hand was up.
No, just one area that which is urgent. I don't know if Chiba was talking about the same, because I can't move on. Is that list of people representing the bigger thematic group? We need it urgent. Start now.
Okay. ENR and Kana have promised Monday. My work will be simple. After quarter, you will call them. Please wear the leads. And please, it is consultative. You know these people, how they start to work. They will say, how did you select Chimboa? Anthony, you know those words. Why are you bringing all the people? Those questions you might, please consult. Find a way you consult your constituencies before people start choosing each other. So it has been a very wonderful evening. I've taken too much of your time, but from us, I want to say our objectives have been met for this afternoon. And that said, I want to invite Gasta, come over. You sound the chair, I haven't handed over. Gasta, come over. And Gasta, your work is going to be simple. On behalf of the participants, you invite the representative of government to close our meeting, and thereafter do any other business. Can you clap for me?
First of all, I would like to congratulate ourselves for a successful meeting today. And yes, and then Mr. Machika, please accept my words that you are such a charismatic leader, a leader who does not take sides. You have always been our convener for such meetings. Therefore, I would like to request members here present to join their hands together and lastly, I will do the job you gave me. The job you gave me is to invite the representative of the Commissioner for Climate Change, Mr. Semambo. Yes, I had forgotten his name. Semambo Mohammed. Mr. Semambo, it is an honor always to have you here, because when you are here, you send signals to us. You send a vibration in the team. Actually, when you are presenting, have you ever observed that there is not a single person who falls asleep?
Yeah.
Except she has gone. She has gone. I was going to mention, but she has gone. So let me take this singular honor to invite the Mr. Semambo to address, to give the remarks and close this meeting. Mr. Semambo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chinji Gasta. I still record your name every day. So Ladies and gentlemen, I think my work is being simplified. I'm here on behalf of the Ministry of Water and Environment, specifically Commissioner Climate Change Department. First and foremost, to first thank you, all of you, in your various capacities, but also to thank the two networks for always aligning with us. So we always tell people that we're just steering the coordination, but all what we do it on behalf of our country. So, like it has already been mentioned, the discussion today should not end because a lot is expected to change. The final agenda is not yet conclusively agreed on, so countries are still lobbying for other thematic areas that may influence what the final COP agenda. And therefore, to pick out this is that all of us will need to read. All of us will need to read, and I think the notes have been shared. But really, it makes sense to read, even when somebody has committed to make for you the position draft or the draft position. But it makes sense when you have deeper insight when you're trying to read. So, as usual, moving forward, that we'll expect that you feed into the government formulations, but not the government feeding into you, because sometimes it may be late. The formulation we're talking about is that the activities that were aligned here, they will be very good to come before the one for government, most of them, in terms of the timelines. That now you're making some bit of alignment to feed into. So it's a two-way feedback. That what is being discussed that side, how are we resonating onto it, and how are we giving them feedback before they concretize what will be the national position. I think that one will be very, very important. And to note that COP is organized in various ways, as usual. All of us may not be lead negotiators, but the contribution to those that negotiate on our behalf is for all of us. That's why when you go there, there's a blue zone, a green zone, name it, but all contribute to that. And then it makes us to shine in one way or the other. So with this, I would say that this is just the beginning. And then we are aiming to end most of these things in at end of what? End of October, because the dates for the COP is 11th November. And then there's, in most cases, there's advanced team which go, meaning that they'll go when things have already been organized. So let us try to pull all the resources that we have, whether in kind or in cash, to ensure that these activities regarding COP move effectively. So I think with that, government is always there to align with you, even when you have these talk shows. Please feel free to move with government. The commissioner is there. If you need her in the talk shows, she can avail herself or nominate somebody to be part of these talk shows. And then we'll kick off such kind of these activities. So I think this is really very important. So in the interest of time, allow me to thank everybody. I know that the weekend has begun. Good weekend to everybody. Then I take this opportunity. Robert, last time I'm not good at closing the meetings. So we adjourn because I know that we shall come back to this very room. So I adjourn this meeting on behalf of what?
Yes. Has everyone who registered this number?
Yes.
So after registration, are we expecting you to respond? Okay, colleagues, if you haven't registered your phone number in your names, make sure in your names. I want to repeat that in your names. We will be sending a modest facilitation